Hello everyone, it's Tracy here and I'm back with another video. I'm so sorry it's been such a long time, but I've been working on a special project that you guys will find out about very soon, so make sure to stay tuned to my blog. For this card today, I am starting with the Mermaid Lagoon Distress ink, and I have a piece of the Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, and I just left it the size that it is. I am going to end up trimming it down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches, so you could do that either before or after you start doing your distress ink on there. But I'm just taking my mini foam blending tool and covering this part completely. I just kind of want that base color on there. And then I'm also going to use the faded jeans and go around the edges to make those a little bit darker. So you can see how that color blends on there, and these two work really well together. It's going to be a little bit like a darker blue frame, I guess you could call it, on there. You could also go a step further and even add in the chip sapphire to make it a little bit even darker around the edges, but I just liked it with these two colors. Alright, so after I finish the distress ink part, I'm going to take this stamp set from the Alleyway Stamps, and I'm taking this ring. It's kind of a flower, I guess. It has scallops around the edge, but you could use it for whatever you want. And I first made sure that this distress ink piece was completely dried. So either you want to dry it with your heat tool, let it dry overnight, and then I tested it. I put some embossing powder over the top of it just to make sure that it didn't stick to it and it was completely dried. So now I'm stamping this circle with my Versamark ink. That's the clear sticky ink used for heat embossing. So I'm just randomly stamping these all over the place. And sometimes this is a little bit hard to see, but I did get a tip from somebody that there's like a more colored or shimmery Versamark. That way you can see where you stamped, but you're going to cover it with your embossing powder, so it's not really going to matter that it was a color in the first place. But I am covering this with the liquid platinum embossing powder. So go ahead and tap off the excess. And if you do have little bits that stick on your distress ink, you can also always take a paintbrush and just scrape those little flecks off from there. And then if you did miss any parts, you can always go back and stamp more of the circles in just so that there's not any bare spaces. So I did go in and stamp that extra one kind of towards the middle that looks like it's bare there. Alright, so I took my heat tool and heated that up so that all of that embossing powder melted completely. Next I took some water and just squirted that on my nonstick craft sheet, and then I'm adding that to the center of each of those circles with a paintbrush. And the ink is going to react with the water, so it's going to lighten it up. I'll remove it with a towel in just a minute, and then you'll see kind of what it looks like. So it creates that more bleached effect because it takes away the ink and it's going to be lighter, and you'll be able to see the difference between that and the outside where all of the ink is. So once I finish putting that on, I have this microfiber towel, which I love. I picked this up at Simon Says Stamp. It was like a couple bucks, but you can get them anywhere. But I'm just picking up that water, and then you can see how it kind of bleached that out, and that ink was picked up by adding the water. So I'm going to do it one more time just to try to get any remaining ink, because I really want those to be lighter, much lighter than the background, and I don't want any of that blue ink on there. It will be a little bit blue just because it was already added to the cardstock and soaked in a little bit, but I just want to try to get it as light as I possibly can. So I'll add that water on there, and then I'll take my towel one more time and then pick up all of that excess water. And then that is my background for my card. You could do this with any shapes, just adding that water onto the distress ink. So next I have another stamp set from the Alleyway Stamps, and I have this more solid feather, and I'm going to stamp this 3 times. The first time is with the emerald green ink from Simon Says Stamp. Or actually, I'm going to start with my lightest color just because it does kind of dye the feather. So I have the mint julep. I'll go ahead and stamp that down. And then I'm going to stamp the green apple from Simon Says Stamp. And then my last color, which is the darkest color, is that emerald green from Hero Arts. And then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut these feathers out. And I did fussy cut them out right to the edges of the stamped line. I also die cut a circle out of vellum using the Spellbinders circle dies and this black hello from Simon Says Stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble all of these together. I'll first adhere the feathers down to my vellum circle. I'm using the multi-matte medium and just squirting a little bit of that on the bottom of each of the feathers. And then I'll go ahead and place them down. I'll place that one right in the center. Then I'm going to place the other two kind of overlapping that a little bit. And then I'm also going to adhere that hello die with a little bit of the multi-matte medium. I'm just squirting little dots of that on the back. It's a really strong adhesive, so you don't need very much. But if you don't like the messy part of it, you could always use like the Xyron sticker maker. But the nice thing about the multi-matte medium is that it does dry matte, so you can't really see it on your finished project. And then I'll place that right over those feathers. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere that on to my card. First, I'll adhere down my background, and I'm just using my ATG gun and putting some adhesive all along the outside edges and a little in the center. And then I'll place that down on my white A2 size card base. And I guess I did say in the beginning that I cut that down. I did keep it the same size. So it is the same size as my A2 size card base. And then I'm adding some foam squares to the back of that vellum. I'm just adding it to the back of the feathers though, so that you won't be able to see it through the bottom part of the vellum. And then I'll adhere that right onto my card. So then I'm also going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to each of those feathers. I really want them to sparkle and shine, so I'm just covering it. My Wink of Stella pen was getting a little bit dry, so I'm just shaking it to try to get some of that glitter to the bottom. I don't know, I've heard that you can refill these Wink of Stella pens. I tried and there was like no water going into that part. I was like squeezing it and everything, so I don't really know how you refill those. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And then I'm also taking some clear sequins and just sprinkling those on to my card. I really love these ones because they're so sparkly and shiny, and I am gluing those into place with my multi-matte medium. I just squirt a little dot and then push the sequin into place, and it holds it really, really well. You could also use glossy accents or the Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere those. And don't forget, if you're interested in any of the products I use, they will be linked below. And then the last step, I am rounding the upper left-hand corner with my 1/2 inch We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper. And then that is my finished card for today, so thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will see you guys back here next time. Have a good day. Bye!